Connacht have announced a virtually unchanged team after last week's postponement of the match against the Ospreys to take on Benetton at the Sports Ground in Galway tomorrow night in what is the first of the number of rearranged games that Connacht are going to have to play in this season's disrupted Pro 14. And the team is 15 John Porch, 14 Peter Sullivan, 13 Sammy Arnold, 12 Tom Daly, 11 Alex Wooten, 10 Conor Fitzgerald, 9 Caelan Blade, 1 Dennis Buckley, 2 Shane Delahunt, 3 Jack Ainger, 4 Owen Masterson, 5 Gavin Thornbury, 6 Sean O'Brien, 7 Conor Oliver, 8 Paul Boyle, who will captain Connacht for the first time. And the replacements: 16 Johnny Murphy, 17 Paddy McAllister, 18 Dominic Robertson McCoy, 19 Ulton Delan, 20 Jared Butler, 21 Colm Riley, 22 Sean O'Brien, who will make his debut for Connacht if he gets on, and 23 Matt Healy. The one change to the starting 15 is that Caelan Blade has come back from a hamstring injury. Colm Riley drops to the bench. Stephen Kerrins drops off the bench. We also see that Ulton Delan has come onto the bench in replacement for Cian Prendergast, and Matt Healy comes on in replacement for Colm de Butler. And after the team was announced, I caught up with Connacht defence coach Pete Wilkins to discuss the match and the team selected. Great to talk to you, Pete. The Connacht team announced to take on Benetton in this rearranged game at the Sports Ground tomorrow night. And you've made a decision that essentially you've picked the same team that was due to play against the Ospreys last week, that had gone through a full week of preparation, including a captain's run and a team announcement. Only one change: Caelan Blade back from injury. He's in at 9. So young Colm Riley drops to the bench, and Stephen Kerrins drops off the bench, and Paul Boyle is captain again. So give me an idea. Why did you make, as a coaching collective, make the decision to go with the same team?
Yeah, I think there was obviously a huge amount of frustration, and for no one's fault, but a huge amount of frustration with having that game cancelled last minute against the Ospreys. As you said, we finished the captain's run, and the majority of guys had left the office or left the ground for the final time that week. So we felt that group that had prepared particularly well. We thought all those guys deserved opportunities, and there was no reason not to give them a similar opportunity this week. Obviously, having Caelan back available was a boost, and as well as young Colin played, in his previous outing, it was important to get Blady back in there for his leadership and obviously his on-field ability and management as well. So other than that, we just felt, look, these guys deserve the opportunity, and we'd see that through and make sure they got it. Equally, we've got one look, a keen eye on Benetton and seeing the threats and the opportunities there, and the strength of that group was something we thought would get the job done this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been a very disrupted season. Connacht, if this, fingers crossed, this game gets played tomorrow night, we all hope, will have played 6. They'll be 2 games behind where they should be in the Pro 14. But then you're going into a very tough run of games. It's going up a level. I mean, Racing, Bristol, and 3 Irish provinces to play at Christmas, who are all undefeated. Is there any danger that a game like this could be... It's obviously a potential banana skin, but you've got to keep everybody focused on just really looking for 5 points tomorrow night.
Yeah, you do have to stay focused, and as you said, there's a really exciting block of games coming up after this Benetton fixture in terms of the Champions Cup games and the Christmas Interpros you mentioned. So, look, I think had we been coming off a really long game of a really long stint of back-to-back games, there is always a bit of a risk, no matter how hard you try, that last game before a big block or a European block can sometimes slip by in terms of the focus. I think, one of the silver linings, if there is one, with having had a bit of a stop-start season so far, is that every game feels pretty precious. And, I mean that in terms of us as a coaching group being very focused and wanting to achieve the maximum in each game that we do get to play, but also for the players, because you always have guys frustrated in your group because all players want to play every week. But we've, obviously got a mix of guys that were leaving out of teams through non-selection. And then you've also got the guys that are getting picked and then having games cancelled last minute. So there's a huge amount of excitement and a huge amount of focus when the games do come around. So I think that's probably been one of the flip sides to the stop-start nature of the season, is that, I don't think any game is really seen as being taken for granted and in danger of slipping by.
Yeah, just looking at the side there, obviously you've still got guys away with Ireland, not many, only one starting, and the final game in the Nations Cup, Bundyaki, which you'd expect, he's at 13. Quinn, who's had a very good run with Ireland, is on the bench. They'll obviously be coming back to you next week. How are you going to bring them back in, because they've been involved in some pretty heavy duty games and camp over the last little while?
Yeah, they have been. I mean, it's obviously been an intense period for them in terms of the amount of international games that have been going on back to back, and also the amount of time they've spent in camp. So we need to be cognizant of that. At the same time as the Connacht guys who've been up there in camp, there's a fair bit of variation in terms of how much rugby they've played. Even Bundy's probably not played as much as he would do normally in a Six Nations campaign, because Andy Farrell and his team have made an effort to spread that load and obviously give other guys opportunities. So they will be coming back after a fairly intense block, but at the same time there'll be a lot of that Connacht group who are really hungry for some rugby. So Quinn obviously with his involvements, but certainly a couple of them off the bench. Kieran Marmin's not had a huge amount. Hef hasn't had a huge amount since the early stage of that campaign. So they will be back in. They'll need a rest at some point, and whether that's a week or two, we'll have to decide when we rest them across this European phase, these first two games, and then the Interpros over Christmas. So they certainly won't play all 5 of those games. But at the same time, we'll be free to use them as and when we see fit, and also as and when they feel fit as well. So stage one is Andy Friend, speaking to those guys themselves and seeing how they're feeling in body and mind, and then just chatting to them about the games and the plans around those games, and seeing where we all align on that. So we'll get them back, and I think, as I said, a lot of them are really keen to have some rugby. So it's good for us and good for them as well.
So that effectively means Bundy will want to play 79 minutes and 30 seconds of every game.
he wants to, yeah. He's happiest when he's out there. So no, he'll be pushing for everything, no doubt.
Well, he certainly enlivens the bench if he's anywhere near it. He's got the loudest voice in Connacht, I can tell you, when you're at a game, when he's driving them forward, particularly that game against Glasgow. One name there we haven't mentioned, maybe Jack Carty. Jack was released back from Ireland. He wasn't selected last week. He wasn't selected this week. Is there any issue with him, or are you just getting? How are you handling that?
Yeah, no issue at all with Jack. It's certainly nothing he's done wrong in terms of being left out of the squad for any reason like that. The main focus here is to try and get Conor Fitzgerald some game time, leading into this busy period with the Champions Cup games and the Interpros. Certainly at the start of the season, we envisaged Conor having a bit more rugby than he would have had in terms of Jack's time in Ireland camp and those other games. But with Jack coming back probably a little bit sooner than we and others expected, and then also the cancelled games, it just means Conor's not had those opportunities that we thought he might have had between the start of the year and this block. So, Ospreys last week unfortunately didn't happen, but this week with Benetton, it's another chance to get Fitzy out there and get him into some form and some match fitness as well, because he's been training exceptionally. So certainly nothing that Jack's done wrong, but no, we are keen to have the two of them firing by the time we get to this busy block coming into Christmas and through Christmas.
Yeah, we've talked about this block, but it's quite savage. It's essentially, it's like having 7 test matches one after the other. And I suppose player rotation is very, very important. So is this an opportunity against Benetton for these players to all put up their hand? They're getting a slight jump on everybody else, are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity for them, definitely, in terms of, as you said, in terms of putting their hand up. And, if you play so well that you can't be left out, then, they're certainly the guys that you'll be discussing first in terms of building towards that game at Racing, the following week. So it is a good opportunity for them. At the same time, as you said, the games come thick and fast, and they're they're going to be pretty attritional as well through this block. So everyone will get opportunities, and we're fortunate in several positions where we have got chances. We talked about the 10s there, and certainly at 9. There's obviously increasing options now around the back row as well. So there's lots of opportunity there to give guys their go and reward them, I suppose, for the form they've shown in training and games, but also to make sure we don't burn anyone out. And as you said, you get through the Interpros and there's more European games, but it's just terrifically exciting. I mean, even in normal circumstances, to have those type of opponents coming up and in such a short space of time, it's really exciting. But particularly this year, when we've had those games cancelled, there's a freshness and there's an energy bubbling away in the group, and guys just want to get stuck in. And I think last year, we were reflecting on today as coaches. Last year we went away to Toulouse, and many people probably didn't give us much of a hope, but there was so much belief within this group in terms of how we play and how we prepare. So the opportunity to take on your Racings and your Bristols and so forth, it's just brilliant. And there's certainly no one that's in awe of the opposition. There's a healthy respect, but really everyone just wants to get stuck into them. So fatigue and tiredness and lethargy and all those sort of banana skins you might normally have kind of coming into the depths of winter, this year we're actually looking pretty different to that, which is great.
Yeah, and with the Bristol game, obviously the Pat Lam, John Muldoon, Conor McPhillips, Jake Heenan, Peter McCabe, Niad Ialokan, there's some real Connacht connections there. That's going to add something to that as well, isn't it?
It will. I mean, it's brilliant. It adds to the the narrative around the whole game, and it's even just in terms of the coaching staff that you mentioned when they first went to Bristol, but now you add in those players as well that have found themselves there as well. I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant for both clubs, and the story of Connacht sort of ties in nicely to it. So. It's something that will add a bit of spice to it. What it's like? It's like, playing with your brother in the backyard. You're determined to come out on the right side of it. And I know there'll be, a healthy respect. And I suppose, the pleasure of seeing old friends, but there'll be an edge to it as well. And a lot of guys who want to make their point and want to make sure they come out on the right side of things. So it is exciting. And we're not there yet. There's a couple of big weeks to come first, but we're looking forward to it in the background there.
What are you looking for tomorrow night? What's the key to taking on and beating Benetton, who haven't they've done okay this season, but they're not maybe at the level they were a couple of seasons ago. What are you looking for, Peter?
Look, I think there's two things, William, to be honest, and we had a good win against Benetton here at the sports ground last year, and there were two things that stood out from that game for us. One was our accuracy, particularly with ball in hand. We didn't concede a lot of turnovers. We made opportunities count. We were efficient when we got into that scoring third of the field. So in terms of how we went about our business, the accuracy of that performance really stood out in review. And, Benetton, although they might not have fired on all cylinders yet this year, they do have dangerous individuals in that team. And we'll need to make sure that we're not giving them loose opportunity and make sure that we're, when we do get our chances, that we're capitalising on those. So the accuracy piece is key for us in attack on both sides of the ball and especially defence. One of the things the Benetton players spoke to us about after that previous game at the sports ground was how physical it was, and they described it as their most physical encounter of that season so far. So again, big men and they need some stopping, and if you're going to carry hard, you need to carry hard through them and make sure you're trying to come out the other side. So that physical side of the game will be really important for us, both sides of the ball. That's as much a physical implementation of that as it is a mindset and making sure that that's right going into the game. So you see from that selection, a lot of guys in that team, your Sean O'Brien, your Paul Bowles, your Connor Olivers, that they don't take many backward steps, and that will be crucial tomorrow night because, once an opposition talks about you being physical, you don't want to disappoint them the next time. So that will be key as well.
I'll finish with Paul Boyle. It's his first game as captain. Why did you make him captain?
Paul has a healthy edge about him, and what I mean by that is he doesn't suffer fools. He drives hard standards for himself to follow and to achieve, and with that, people recognise it and they follow him as well. He's relentless in his preparation. He's not afraid to challenge others, and he's not afraid to put his hand up when he needs to. He needs to deliver on something as well. So, in terms of that leading by example on the field, but also driving the standards of those around him, he's been excellent. And he's got a good few Connacht caps now, and he's earned his stripes. And there's a healthy respect for him within the group. So. Jared obviously is still there as our club captain and will be massively important for us when he's in there as well. But Paul's earned the opportunity, and we're pleased for him and excited to see how he grasps it.
Well, that's the preview completed. Don't forget to look out for our after-match podcast, which will be released early in the week. And then our midweek podcast as we preview the start of Connacht's European Champions Cup adventure when they travel to Paris to take on Racing 92.